Hey everyone, my name is Carrie and I'm the founder of Prosthetic. I just want to do a quick video to go over a couple of the features. The first one that I want to go over is prosthetic design, and I like this one a lot because I use it in my daily practice, and I would love to know if it's something that you guys would also consider using, if it saves you time, if it helps streamline things. So one thing to note is just that you can only see the link for prosthetic design if you are logged in. You'll know that you're logged in up at the top here because the login button will switch to log out and your name will be listed there. So make sure you log in, and there's a tutorial about how to do that in another video. If you have any issues with that, send me an email and I can get you an invitation link if you need it. But assuming you're logged in, you just go down here to prosthetic design. And this is what I use when I am doing my long eval note and I want to justify the prosthesis. So it's more of like a click and go type platform where you're not having to type so much. So you start with treatment phase. So the treatment phase, you've got your post-op, initial, preparatory, definitive, and then also the socket replacement. So let's just assume that we're doing a definitive prosthesis here, and then you've got the amputation level. So you've got partial foot cymes, BK or transtibial, AK or knee artic, and hip level. So we'll just say for this patient it's a BK level, and then you're going to choose their functional level. When you click one of these, it's going to bring up the functional characteristics from the Medicare LCD. They are auto-selected, which means that it's assuming that the patient can do all of them. And that's just to try to save you clicks. I'm not saying that the patient can do all of them. It's for you to look at and say, okay, yep, my patient can ambulate on flat, smooth surfaces and negotiate a curb. They can access public or private transportation and negotiate stairs. Maybe they can't traverse low-level barriers like a ramp, or maybe they can't do stairs, but you can select exactly what characterizes your patient. They're just auto-selected in the beginning just because it makes it a little easier to unclick than it does to click all of them. As you know, again, those functional characteristics come from the Medicare LCD. If you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer it, but I think we're all pretty familiar with that. The next part is about patient presentation. So is it a new user or is it a patient who has an existing prosthesis? So with an existing prosthesis, you want to talk about why you're replacing it. So again, per the LCD, you've got irreparable wear or damage, physiological change, or repair costs that exceed 60% of replacement. So I'll go ahead and click irreparable damage. Just to give you an idea of what that would look like. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to just go with a new user here. And then you get the choice of selecting your base code. Now, most of the time it's going to be endoskeletal, but you do have the choice there. And then you're going to look at the socket design, suspension, soft goods, and protective covers. So for socket design, we'll just pretend that we're going to do a test socket, acrylic, total contact, ultra lightweight, and alignable. For suspension, we'll say this patient is suction, so we'll go with the BK suction valve, the sleeve, and some cushion liners. And then for soft goods, we're going to get them single ply, multiply socks, and shrinkers. So what that does is down below here, it generates an output of your note. It includes the phase of treatment being definitive. It includes that K level that you selected. It includes the functional characteristics that you described. And then down below that, it produces the prosthetic design, including the base code and then the additional codes that you selected. Now that's all the base code and the socket. There are statements that are describing what you're doing there. I'm not saying that this is all inclusive and that you're never going to make changes. I tried to be as descriptive as possible with these explanations so that you can edit them, and I frequently do when I'm transferring them over to my documentation. And none of it requires patient-specific information, so this is more of just like a generalized profile that you select based on your patient presentation. And then you add to your documentation, which is where all the HIPAA protected information would be located. Now I know what you're thinking. Okay, that's great. We've got all this background information, but what about prosthetic components? So the app that I created called Prosthetic is for comparing and selecting components. So what you would do here is you go ahead and click select components in prosthetic, and it's going to take you over to prosthetic. Now, if you are seeing patients that are higher levels, like transfemoral and hip level, then obviously you need to add more components. But since I selected a BK, then obviously I just need to select a foot. So what you would do is you would select your foot, and I just happened to treat a patient where I was using this foot the other day, so I'm just going to click on this one. And you're going to go to the details page. And in the details page, I've got these L code justifications. So the base code for this foot is L5972. You're going to click there. And it brings you to this page that goes over the description and the clinical benefits. Now, the clinical benefits list several different options. So the way that this works is that, okay, I've got a patient with either a K2 or a K3, or in my case, this patient was a K2 that I was working with, but L5972, and I wanted the gait stability because they were not quite a community ambulator, and I felt like they could benefit from stability. So in this particular case, I decided that I wanted the clinical benefit of gait stability for the L5972 code, so I'm going to click Add Benefit to Design. And that adds the benefit there. And then I'm going to go back and click the other code. So for L5968, that's the hydraulic ankle code. And for this patient, I felt like terrain adaptation and stability was the best explanation of why I was using that code. So again, click that. There you go. And then we're going to go back on over to the design page, and it should update with that information. Now, I accidentally clicked L5972 twice, so it's listed there twice, although it doesn't need to be. So in my particular case, I would just get rid of this second one. But you've got your K level, you've got your functional characteristics, you've got your basic prosthetic design, including the base code and all the addition codes with a justification of each one. And then you've got your prosthetic components, all listed here, specifically describing why you're billing each code. Now, I do still recommend, and I do this personally when I use this program, is you want to read through all this information and make sure it's exactly describing your patient. In this particular case, I've got the L5972 twice, so I would just get rid of that second one. And to make sure that what is listed here specifically describes your patient. So for a suspension sleeve, it improves suspension consistency and socket seal, reducing pistoning and rotational movement, enhances comfort, proprioception, and gait stability. Those are all some different options. For this patient, I do feel like reducing pistoning and rotational movement is the most pertinent, so that is what I highlighted under suspension sleeve. So it just sort of gives you a framework to make documentation a little easier and a little faster and a little bit more concise. So that is the idea behind prosthetic design. What I do with that output is I will highlight that information, or you can use the copy text button and it'll copy the output, and then you can go ahead and put it into your EMR. When you're done, all you want to do is hit clear all, and it'll set the output back to the original state where nothing was in there, and you can start it over with a new patient. I would love to know what people think. If you guys think it is something that you would use in your practice, if you think that it would help and make things a little bit more concise and efficient, or if you think that you don't agree. But either way, I would love to hear from you. Let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.